I've got that radiant glow, that sweet, glorious blue. And radiant
Down the road of Highway 95, intersecting Nevada 164, the cracked highways may lead you south to a location bathed in radiation. So tainted is the air, it tints a sickly green as you approach. But what happened here, you might ask? Why can you see NCR flags in this radiation hot zone? Why are there feral NCR troopers? What nightmare is this? What happened at Camp Searchlight? Hello there, and welcome to the Green Vault Podcast, a lore-based podcast delving deep into the world of Fallout and its locations, be they eerily spooky, weirdly funny, quirkily strange, or wonderfully benign. So join me, your host, Red, as we take a look at a location in Fallout and discuss every aspect from architecture, quests, loot, sound, and game design. So welcome, dear listener, and let's delve into today's location. We are in Fallout New Vegas once again as the Courier, in the southern part of the map, leaning towards the east. Camp Searchlight can be approached from just about every angle. Odds are, though, you'll approach it from the north or western side. As you get closer, the air around will begin to change, tinting a sickly yellow-green. Dotted around the perimeter of the Camp Searchlight are radiation signs. These loosely mark the borders of the radiation zone. They're stacked predominantly around the roads leading into Camp Searchlight, but a few are dotted around the perimeter as well. So odds are you'll see a sign before your Geiger counter kicks in. Approaching Camp Searchlight, you may see a group of 4 NCR troopers running around the perimeter. They may also be at an unmarked location just outside the western edge of Camp Searchlight called Astor's Recon Camp. You can talk to First Sergeant Astor, the leader of the group. He will automatically talk to you if you get too close. He warns you off the area, telling you to avoid Searchlight. You can find out what happened from him. He informs you that some of Caesar's legion snuck in and let off some kind of radiation bomb. He was out on patrol when the attack happened. Probing further, you can find out he has voluntarily stayed behind to warn off travelers. Astor and the 3 soldiers are basically all that's left. Everyone else was turned into a feral ghoul in the attack or perished from radiation poisoning and legion attacks that followed afterwards, including all of his superiors. You can get 2 quests from Astor, one only if you've been to Cottonwood Cove already, and by that you need to have it marked on your map as a location already. The other is you offering to help clear out the ghouls. He asks you to put down all of the feral ghoul NCR troopers and bring back their dog tags as proof. He pays some caps for each of the tags. He states, "I can't imagine how they must be suffering. I'd like to put them out of their misery, but I don't have the heart to do it." Astor seems to be almost suffering sort of survivor's guilt. He's saddened by the attack, and he could just leave, but he's chosen to stay behind. He says he wants to warn off others from the area, but it also feels like he doesn't want to leave what's left of his friends behind. If you accept that job, he'll give you some Radex and Radaway, so taking him up on the offer really helps you survive the radiation. Because yes, the entire location is irradiated above ground, so you either have to have good protection, be quick, or have a decent amount of meds. An eerie track backdrops your entire adventure in this location. Ominous music that follows you around as you head on through. The music is actually from a previous game, but fits very well here. The small town is crossed through by Highway 95 and Nevada 164 at the northern part of the town. The Nevada 164 bridges over Highway 95, which runs down the main street of Searchlight. So basically Highway 95 comes in through the top of the town, and that is the serves also as the main road. The main street is filled with roaming feral ghouls that will attack on sight. All wear NCR armour. Some shamble like the more classic ferals, while others will walk with the more standard human animations like you'll find with non-feral ghouls, but these will also attack on sight and are fully hostile. The more human versions of the ghouls drop irradiated NCR dog tags. These are for the quest for Asta and means you can't just give him any random old dog tags, they have to be these irradiated variants. The layout of the town is thus. At the north of Highway 95, the road leads down into the middle of the town, under a crumbling bridge that cuts through the upper part of the town. 2 ranch-type houses are passed as you walk down Highway 95, then under the bridge into the main road of the town. This main road leads down to an airport a little in the distance. The town has a single crossroad internally, then further down a T-section. These are the 2 that I use for main references. The crossroad leads directly to the front door of a church, now but a shell to the west. Rather confusingly, the T-section heads east, leading directly to the front door of another church. Both churches have an accessible basement too, which I'll get to in a little bit. Dotted around the streets are various buildings. Most buildings on the main street have that classic Wild West frontage with the classic high porch and high front-facing upper wall. They're mostly barred, with wooden planks nailed over door frames and windows, as are the rest of the buildings around, barring a few. Both churches are crumbled and open. The T-section church is completely barren. The Crossroad church is a little more furnished with some sandbags and the remnants of a sign outside that marks it as the Church of Searchlight. The sign has some letters left on it, but quite a few are missing. The top line reads B, a few spaces G, a couple spaces E, a few more spaces Y, and then 3, then close bracket for some reason. The next reads U, a couple spaces SD, some more spaces Y, more spaces NIGH, or night I assume, and then semicolon 30. The last line reads Revelation 9, semicolon 6. The first T is actually upside down, so it's an L being made with a T. I was a little confused until I looked around the back and that side reads fully, Bingo, every Tuesday night, 6:30, 9:30. Then looking at the front again, I realised that the letters from the front were used to make up the Bible reference. The close bracket is actually a 0, but it's overlapped with the white square of the 3 before it. I'm not religious myself, so I did have to Google what Revelation 9:6 actually was, and the most common version I can find seems to be, "And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them," which seems to be a link to the ghoulification of the troops and their undying state. It's, of course, obviously implied that someone has come up and taken a bunch of the letters off to make that Revelation sign there. That's why the front is a mess, but the back is perfectly fine. And there's no L in there, so of course they had to use a T and flip it around. The main road and various other spots, including outside this church, have sandbag barricades with a Mark III turret at them. There are 5 turrets in total, and they all have a console linked to them. They are hackable with varying degrees of difficulty, from very easy to very hard, and all in between basically. You can activate the turrets and they'll shoot any ghouls or other creatures nearby, excluding you, which is nice. So if you can sneak around, you can pretty much clear out the entire place just using the turrets, providing you have the correct hacking skills. You can easily lead the melee weapon-wielding ghouls into the active turrets too, which makes rather easy work of them, and they seem to also attack the turret if you're standing behind them first. Around this decayed town are a few buildings you can enter aside from the basements of the churches. There's the fire station, the police station, the elementary school, and a single home. The basement entrance in the Western Church, this is the church off the North Cross section, has a lit lantern next to it, pulling your eye towards it. It's a very common gaming design mechanic. A sign is also above it on the wall, pointing towards the cellar-type door, stating storage area, just in case you missed the lighting cue. This is the Searchlight NCR storage. Inside is a single large room filled with storage crates, racks of metal shelving that line several walls, filled with all manner of lootables, including several ammo crates. Tiled brick lines the floors, and the walls are solid concrete, lined with naked framing of wood for support. This basement is a genuinely good spot to loot, especially if you're doing something like a hardcore sort of run, or what have you. You'll find a lot of food and some good ammo and some sellables here. Surprisingly though, you'll also find 3 people down here, all alive and non-ghoulified. The radiation doesn't actually hit you down here either, so it explains these survivors why they're not ghoulified or suffering from radiation poisoning, and also a safe little space for you if you need to take a quick respite. Two are generic prospectors. The third person, however, is called Logan. Logan was hired by the Crimson Caravan and they're here to loot the place. But the radiation is bad and they're looking for radiation suits. If you offer to help, he'll ask you to crack the console in the room. An average lock locks the console to find the location of the radiation suits. This character is actually a must if you want to legitimately explore the fire station and the police station and complete all the quests here. He has the keys to the two stations and they can't be pickpocketed from him either. You either have to help him out or blow him up to get access to the keys. He accompanies you as a temporary companion for some looting once you get him the radiation suits, but more about him and his quests later on, however. Down the main road on the eastern side is the fire station. A flagpole now waving an NCR flag stands out front. Of course, the entrance is locked until you have the key. This key is a required lock, meaning you can't lockpick it at all, you have to get the key for it. You enter the main floor, in the garage area of the station, to find a gigantic rad scorpion queen in your face, with two normal-sized ones at its side for extra support, I guess. A tough fight for the unprepared indeed. The queen doesn't go down easy. It radiates green radiation energy and your rads climb fast inside this building. 12 rads a second are pumped into you even just standing at the door. No fire trucks are inside, however 2 lorries can be found. These are trucks with, long flatbeds. They have several of these unique looking tubes on the beds, large metal tubes with framed legs and a rounded hinged end cap. 2 are on the floor next to the trucks, their doors open. Next to each tube is a dead legionary recruit. They both have orders on their bodies, which read, "The guard at Camp Searchlight have been leaving holes in their patrols at night. You are to enter the camp and go directly to the fire station. Once inside, you'll find several canisters. Open as many of them as you can and report back to me. Vulpus Inculta." Inculta? I think it's Inculta. Damn Latin names. Anyway, I find it noteworthy that he stated for the recruits to report back to him. He absolutely knew this was a one-way trip for these recruits. If you come across this place early in your journeys, it's a great indicator of what the Legion is really like. A door leads to an upstairs area, a great location for a large number of troopers to rest, eat and relax, aside from the radiation pumping into you, of course. The floor is all carpeted with the rather plush-looking red carpet. It's a single long hallway with rooms on either side. A large eating area is stacked with foods. Toilets and showers are available as well, though I do find it amusing that the NCR never bothered to clean out the skeleton in one of the stalls, which you can find crumbled inside one of them, still with his fire helmet and everything. I guess they just couldn't be bothered or something, I don't know. Most of the troopers would have no doubt been in here when the sneak attack happened at night, so radiation poisoning would have been, immediate for most of the occupants. You can find the Chief Officer's terminal in a room, and easy hacking gets you inside to find just a single entry. It reads, Chief Officer Report number F1-218. The local police department diverted several trucks from San Onofre carrying nuclear waste to Searchlight this morning. I didn't get all the details, but I heard something about bombs going off nearby and that the trucks were being diverted for safety reasons. 2 of them were housed here in the fire station. The third had to continue on somewhere else because we didn't have enough room to accommodate them all. For some odd reason, it was headed towards Cottonwood Cove. I don't know what he's planning on doing with it down there. So there you get a bit of information about why those trucks are there. Heading back down the main road to the T section, the elementary school sits on the eastern corner just past it. Empty, broken play sets sit outside, inadvisably on the side of the building that runs along the main road, I might add. A small, shorter than waist-height picket fence does run along the border, but again, not the most safety-conscious choice. The school is pretty small, and now peeling paint adorns the outside, and no doubt it was a vibrant red back in the day. The inside is a simple classroom, wooden floors and 2-tone walls with the bottom half being wood as well. Desks line the main room facing 2 chalkboards, another room is a small eating area and locker room. 2 large golden geckos await to surprise you here, once again, some tougher enemies right in your face. Several bedrolls and toys line the back wall's wooden shelving. 2 bedrolls, clearly child size, are rolled out on the ground as well. A little bit of environmental storytelling. My thought was that these kids were either having a sleepover in school, but more than likely were sheltered here. As the chief fire officer's entry talked about, they'd received reports of bombs dropping, so it leads me to believe that mayhaps they were put here for safety or something, or keeping everyone together, something like that. Not really too sure, and you can't really find out either, but sometimes not knowing and guessing is part of the fun, I find. 3 doors lead out of the elementary school. They all lead just outside, so there's no real importance which one you actually take. A stone's throw from the school on the same street is the second church. This with a cellar door as well. This one is simply labelled cellar door to Searchlight church basement. This one mirrors the previous basements in layout. The main area has a large collection of wooden chairs and 2 large solid wood oval-shaped tables. A back wall is lined with now empty ornate picture frames. Scraps of material cling to the edges, giving a sense of decayed pictures long since rotted away. No doubt some lovely oil paintings or acrylics at the very least have been lost here. A crumbled statue lies on the floor, but it's too deteriorated to tell what it might have been, aside from the fact it's vaguely person-shaped. Probably a figure of a saint or something like that, or an angel, that sort of thing it feels like. But this all leads you to wonder, is this the remnants of a defunct church, perhaps? It's hard to tell exactly. It is really weird that this town has 2 churches considering its size. Typically, in history, a lot of places were built around a single church and then, the town sort of grew out around it. So having 2 and neither seeming like they're quite at the centre is a little odd. Oh yes, and of course, before I forget, there are 2 more golden geckos ready to fight as you walk in. While the shelves are more empty here, there is a bit of better loot you can find, which I'll go over at the end of once again. Back outside, we can head back to the main crossroad. Walking east down that road past the fire station, then heading north, the road actually meets the end of the Nevada 164 highway bridge. This would have been the way to drive into town from that highway, as Highway 95 leads straight into it, as we discussed earlier. So just before you get back onto the Nevada 164 and leave Camp Searchlight, you'll find the police station. It has 4 radio dishes outside its entrance, which is rather eye-grabbing and, a unique thing to see. Another sandbag checkpoint is here with another turret as well, making easy work of the ghouls guarding their entrance to this place. The exterior for this place is a bit more unique. The front is tiled concrete, edged with a solid concrete frame. The sectioned areas around the building are concrete pillars with almost Greek-inspired etched work into them. It's very Greek, slightly Roman, but I get the more Greek-type vibe. These frame the windowed sections, which are all orange brick. It has this rather austere look to it, as if it was made to intimidate and impress in equal measure. It's rather a unique looking building and different to the architecture you'll find here and kind of almost everywhere else. At least what comes to memory, of course. You enter into a tight but neat rectangular room. Rounded orange and rather comfy couch-like chairs surround the entrance, 3 at either side, rather equidistant and very perfectly aligned, and the wooden counter sits perfectly in the centre of the room. That's probably where an officer no doubt would have stood with the people entering the station and, that person dealing with them. A Nuka-Cola and Sunset Sarsaparilla vending machine sit in a corner for the parched or bored people that may have waited here. Basic tiled floors and plaster walls are throughout this station. 2 doors lead further inside from this room. You enter on the south. The north door takes you to the holding cells. This one is occupied by an NCR ghoul. It's not actually locked in a cell, just standing around or, in the general area of the cells. Another door in here leads to the same room to the entrance the west door leads to. This is a bit of a surprise to walk into. I'm talking about the sort of now main room here. This main room that would have mostly been where the officers had their desks is instead a large array of consoles. At the centre, 5 desks curve to create a semicircle of consoles all facing inwards. Each desk has 2 computer terminals on them. One corner does the same, but with 3 desks and 5 terminals. The back western wall is also lined with 4 desks. These are a bit wider, wooden desks with 2 terminals on each side, and at the centre is one of those wall-mounted terminals. So 8 terminals and 4 wall-mounted terminals on that western back wall. An NCR flag is stuck to this back wall as well, just above the consoles. There are 3 more doorways from this room, 2 to the south and 1 to the southeast. One southern door leads upstairs, but that's caved in, so you just can't go upstairs, basically. The other is a unisex bathroom, and the southern one is a storeroom. Another NCR ghoul is roaming around this general area too. The storeroom is stacked with more ammo boxes, some ham radios, and leftover desks and chairs with some crates. Again, another great place for some loot and goodies. Investigating all the consoles or terminals, whichever way you want to put it, you'll find that only one of them in the main room works. The wall-mounted terminals have a name and you can interact with them, but they are broken and load an empty page. They simply have a network connection error. They're all labelled broken NCR communications terminal. I have a feeling that these types of terminals aren't able to be unusable, I feel like. I kind of actually get that feeling that I don't think I've ever seen one of those terminals where you can't activate it and get the keyboard out because it does that cool little swish motion where the keyboard folds out from underneath. I think that's just a byproduct of the way those are designed. However, on one of the desks, there is a terminal called the NCR Communications Terminal, and this is one that works. It's in the center, the one with the bank of 5 desks, making a semicircle. Unlocked with an easy level hack, so not too bad at all. There are 4 entries. One is the communication status, which just lets you know it's offline. There are 3 readable entries, however. And these read, Communications Entry number 842, Camp Searchlight Comms Officer's Log. The quartermaster has been bitching to me again about missing supplies and bad communications. I keep telling him that nothing is wrong with the comm system and that his numbers must be off. I don't think he believes me. The bastard will probably keep bugging me until I can either prove he's wrong or find someone else to blame. Damn it, I hate this shit. The second entry reads, Communications Entry number 923, Camp Searchlight Comms Officer's Log. A rad scorpion made it into the camp last night. Some of the troopers patrolling the border are getting sloppy. The only reason anyone noticed it was because several of the comm stations were acting oddly. When the trooper on duty went outside to check the transmitter dishes, he found the scorpion chewing on several of the cables. What's the point of having patrols if shit like this is going to keep happening? And the last entry reads Communication Entry number 937, so not too long after that previous one. Camp Searchlight Comms Officer's Log again. After the Rad Scorpion incident, the night patrols were shifted again. This is the 3rd time in the past month. I don't think they realise the problem isn't the patrols, it's the troops. Every time their patrols get shifted, they get confused and holes open up in the rotations for 2 or 3 days until they're used to the new schedule. I really hope the Legion doesn't figure out and take advantage. And that's where the entry stops. The next line reads, Sudden temperature increase, emergency shutdown initiated. This last entry was no doubt happening as the attack happened, explaining why most of the terminals are offline. The huge amount of radiation must have cooked all the terminals. Also very convenient for the people creating this because they then don't have to fill up a bunch of terminals with a bunch of nonsense text. We've also found out why there were holes in the patrol routes. The fact that they knew about this potential security problem but couldn't do much about it, leading to their demise, is a rather tragic tale indeed. But that's it for the police station. Now heading back out, there is one last place you can enter, and this one's a little harder to stumble upon. Back to the main road, the Highway 95 one, just going back under the bridge again, you walk down south on the main road, but just before the T section with the elementary school, you can cut right down an alleyway between 2 buildings, and the next building along is the Searchlight home. This is a relatively standard-looking home from the New Vegas wasteland. It does stick out due to its more white walls rather than the off-yellow of its neighbours, so I guess it's a great way to sort of slightly draw your eye to it and go, hey, that's a slightly different colour. Another little gaming technique, no doubt, or mayhaps it's just by accident, who knows. Inside is a rather nicely appointed home. The wallpaper was once nice and fancy, and the brown carpeted floor was probably plush at one point. The bedroom, lounge room and kitchen are all cosy with a nice amount of furniture, a perfect place to live, except for the radiation pumping into you, of course. which inside here is only about 1 to 3 rads per second, depending on where you're standing, which is the ambient level outside around this area. The radiation increases as you get closer to the fire station. Another surprise awaits you as you find a non-feral NCR ghoul here. This is Private Kyle Edwards, self-proclaimed former NCR trooper. He believes the NCR wouldn't let him back in now that he's a ghoul. He refuses to leave the house because he's worried the radiation outside will turn him feral faster. You can point out to him that there's radiation inside here as well, and that ferals are, in fact, immune to radiation, but he doesn't listen and still refuses to go outside. He does talk a little bit about the attack, mentioning he felt a huge energy blast that knocked him, I think, basically unconscious, and then waking up, he woke up as a ghoul. You can eventually discover he's also, in fact, afraid of the rad scorpions, and this is actually the main reason he doesn't want to leave. But yes, it does take a little bit, but you finally can get out of him. It's actually quite a tricky tree, I will say, finding the right information from him, because it's one of those a few talks down, you finally get the proper information. And you can help him out, but I'll talk about that in the quest section. For now, we'll leave Private Edwards there. Outside, once again, you can head further down Highway 95. These aren't strictly in the same location, but they're small and pretty connected to this area, the Camp Searchlight, so I will add them on. There is a trailer park which is just down the road south. This is a square, fenced-off area with the shells of cars and motorhomes, and of course a few barrels of radioactive waste, because of course there is its fallout after all. There's nothing else really of interest here, however, and just further down the road is the Searchlight Airport. The Highway 95 road leads into a tunnel of the fenced-off airport. An incline gets you up onto the grounds, but everything is locked off. You can't get into the communications tower or anything like that, or into any of the buildings. There are, however, 2 containers near the building with a large amount of caps in each. One had 380 caps and the other had 390. Apart from that, there's not much else on the runway. There's a few abandoned planes, which of course would definitely not work, and everything is rather destroyed and decayed here. But that is it for the Camp Searchlight in regards to the area. But now that we've done that, let's crack on with the quests. So there are a few quests here, which is nice and lovely. There is We Will All Go Together. This is the side quest for First Sergeant Astor. It's the one collecting the irradiated dog tags. He throws in a rifle if you get 10, and you can pass a speech check to get more out of him. I believe he mentions getting more ammo to you or something like that. Plus he pays some more caps. There are only a maximum of 10 to find, so Private Edwards, the ghoul trooper, has to give you his tags as well for you to get the bonus, as it were, and to complete the quest. You can get it from him through dialogue options or, just shooting him. So that's that quest. And the next one is another side quest, and it's our Eye for an Eye. Astor asks you to check out Cottonwood Cove if you've been there already. Like I mentioned before, you have to actually have gone to Cottonwood Cove, and you can tell him, I've been to Cottonwood Cove, and he's like, oh, really? And then he asks you to scout the location and plant a bug. You can actually find a truck teetering on the edge near the cove, and I actually never knew this. I think I've seen this truck many times, but I've never actually approached it like this. If you pass a 50 lockpick skill check, you can have the barrels drop into the camp, effectively repaying the favour to the Legion and, taking out Cottonwood Cove almost completely. I must admit, I'm curious about this, but I didn't properly check it out. It's not part of this location. I'm not going to other quests that deal in other areas. If I ever cover Cottonwood Cove, I'll cover that exactly and experience it for myself. But yes, you can drop those lovely barrels on the top of them, and if you remember, a note from the Fire Chief's terminal mentioned that a third truck was heading to Cottonwood Cove. Obviously, that's as far as it made it. You can actually just do as Astor asks, plant the bug, get some recon. You can then, I think, optionally drop the thing on the Cottonwood Cove as well to repay them, and I think he's rather happy about that. But you can actually betray him. So you can tell a higher up at the Cottonwood Cove and basically say, they want me to get intel, and they'll give you fake intel. There is another side quest called Wheel of Fortune. Now, this one deals with Logan. This is the survivor you found in the NCR Storage Church basement. You can help him locate and obtain the radiation suits he asks for. Then he'll follow you as you go to the police and fire station to loot both for NCR parts. These are all quest items that will turn into regular counterparts upon completion. So you'll find like a one called NCR Frag Grenade, which will become a normal frag grenade once the quest is done. According to the wiki, the lovely independent Fallout wiki that I use as, a good resource, this quest actually relies on Boxcars, the powder ganger you find in Nipton who won second place in the lottery and only had his legs broken, to be alive. If he isn't, you can't find the hidden stash of the radiation suits and continue the quest. I must admit, I couldn't find any information of what happens if you just happen to have 3 or 4 radiation suits and just give them to him freely. I imagine it's meant to be one of those things where you find a cache and inside is like a package rather than the 3 individual radiation suits by themselves or what have you. Now, Logan will actually betray you at the end of this quest, and you have to take him down, gaining all the loot for yourself at the least, and that's when they turn into non-quest items. If you fail the quest apparently, they may remain stuck in your inventory forever, as in the quest items, the parts. They won't get converted, but they'll be stuck in your inventory and you can't drop them because it says, this item is for a quest and cannot be dropped. And the only way to remove them is via a console command. Now, there is an unmarked quest called Arachnophobia. This is for Private Edwards, and he wants you to clear out rad scorpions outside. If you agree to do it for him, when you go back outside, rad scorpions will spawn. They won't be there before you enter, but they'll, spawn outside, I think about 3 or 4 of them. Taking them down and returning to Private Edwards, you can then convince him to give over his irradiated dog tags. I think it makes it an easier speech check. You can do it straight away, but it's a lot harder. There's a few different sort of speech checks, browbeating him or just convincing him and what have you if you've got a high enough speech. But rather evilly, you can also lie and say that you've already dealt with the rad scorpions. He will then leave thanking you. His body can be found outside, surrounded by rad scorpions. You can take his tag then as well, so if you want to get them that way, you can do it that way. And it's not one of those, he runs outside and does have the battle. I think as soon as he leaves the building, he's just gone already. You can't, no takesies backsies, as it were. But yes, that's it for the lovely, lovely quests. Now, there is a fun little bit of loot here. There's a Chinese Army Special Ops Training Manual, which increases your sneak by 3 points. This is in the East Church basement, so it's the church off the T section, the less adorned one, the one without the, the sandbags and what have you. That's the one that has the golden geckos in the basement. There is also Knock Knock, a unique fire axe in the Searchlight fire station. It's a cleaner, more powerful axe with a matte black handle, and the steel head has a longer fluke, which is, I believe, that little spike that comes out the back of a fire axe if you've ever seen one. Now, if you have the Wild Wasteland trait, there are 3 holy frag grenades in the Searchlight Church basement. If the perk is not selected, the hand grenades will just appear as 2 mini nukes, so it's still not too bad loot. You can sell them or use them. But a real fun thing about the holy frag grenades is the fact that they are very powerful. According to the Fallout Independent Wiki, and quoting it, the explosion is so large that with loose cannon you may be unable to escape the blast, even if thrown the furthest possible distance. This becomes particularly problematic when combined with the splash damage perk. So loose cannon is a perk that allows you to throw grenades faster or what have you, but it restricts your throwing range. So basically you throw it faster, but not quite as far. And splash damage is a perk that gives all explosives a 25% larger area of effect. So you might literally be unable to escape the, the explosions. But yes, that's only if you have the Wild Wasteland perk, you'll get those grenades. But yes, there we are. That's most of the Camp Searchlight in regards to the location, the quests, and the loot. Now, I always like to put my final thoughts here at the end of every recording, and what I thought of the location. Now, funny, it's actually a location I actually typically just skipped over due to the radiation. It's one of those things where I thought I'll come back here later, maybe when I find a radiation suit, and then kind of forget about it. So I've very rarely actually come here. I didn't really know the full story here, so it was really fun to investigate. I do really like the ominous music and the greenish yellowish tint that comes in here. And there's the horror of the, turning feral. And there's, just that lot of all this sort of mixed together to make this real horrific, nightmarish location. You also have Logan the Betrayer, which that's how I've described him in my little notes that I put for myself with, potential talking points. He's a rather suspicious character, and he's one of those people that's like, get the hell out of here, unless you can unlock that terminal, you're no use type attitude. And in fact, going to get those radiation suits, you have to do all the legwork as well. They just stay in the basement. It's quite nice that there's a lot of several quests rolled into this rather small location. It's, quite nice. And I do like the story of the horrific mission these Legion recruits were sent on. There's no way in hell Vulpus didn't know that these kids wouldn't have survived, because they're probably kids. A lot of the Legion recruits are young guys, and they're just half the time used as disposable people. So if you haven't experienced much of the Legion yet, that can give you a little bit of an indication about what they're like. Not that the NCR is often that much better in certain regards, but everyone's sort of a shade of grey here in New Vegas and in Fallout in general, to be honest. But there's a lot of good backstory. The linking the radiation trucks together was quite nice, and the text on the terminals and all that sort of good stuff. It was a lot of good work that went into this location. It's just a shame in a way that the game is so limited, not, New Vegas, even Fallout 4, in the locational size that they can put in. Because I imagine this being like a sprawling, 4 or 5 bare minimum block area where ghouls are on every street and what have you. There's literally not enough space to do that, and they wouldn't have the ability to probably even run it. But it's a food for thought, and something I hope they do in, potentially Fallout 5. You have this sort of real irradiated sort of, place like this where something's happened and you go in and investigate and maybe find out what happened. But yes. But in the end, that's all for Camp Searchlight, the Camp Searchlight Trailer Park, and the Searchlight Airport. I'd love to actually hear from you if you searched this place properly or now want to check it out. Did you go in there and find out everything and rummage your way through it, or did you sort of avoid it as well because there was a lot of radiation? But yes, as always, don't forget to like and sub and comment and all that good stuff. It really, really does help out a small channel like this that's just trying to get off the ground, as it were. A fair amount of work goes into these, and that's why, unfortunately, I've had to currently switch to fortnightly schedule, because I just couldn't keep up the weekly episodes, unfortunately, just running out of time, as it were. But yes, it all does help out a great deal indeed, and thank you very much to the Fallout Independent Wiki, of course, for the references and all that good stuff. It really does help out, and it's a great place to go through if you want to find as much information as possible. It's all referenced there, it's all real good and really well done. But yes, that is it for now, so thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now.